Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and there is nothing quite like the majesty of a great false finish. That's 1, 2, and I actually just missed my cue there. I would have actually been done and dusted right there, but they've kicked out just at the last second. Oh, my heart is in my throat, my friends. And sometimes an ending to a match can be so certain, so undeniably sure that it's going to be the finish, that when it actually isn't, well, it can leave us utterly flabbergasted. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 outrageous WWE false finishes that fooled everybody. Number 10, CM Punk defies Super Cena. CM Punk vs John Cena, Money in the Bank 2011. Now, Chicago might have rioted had Cena gone over Punk at Money in the Bank 2011 because people were not prepared to accept anything other than a hometown hero win, but they also knew that Vince McMahon may fancy using Punk's sensational rise as part of a broader story. Pitfalls would definitely come, but the 17th of July 2011 belonged to Illinois. People collectively held their breath when Cena hit his famed attitude adjustment near the end of the headliner. That had to be it. Surely WWE wouldn't permit Punk, who had the stretch of "you're their guy but you're not our guy" about him, to kick out of JC's finisher, but he did though, and the place came unglued. Then Punk and Cena raced through a closing sequence that gave everyone in attendance exactly what they wanted. People had been definitely fooled though, as they were readying a riot and sharpening their knives during that near fall. Number 9, Santino Marella comes close. Elimination Chamber 2012. Jim Ross, Vinnie Mac, and other WWE announcers once proudly bellowed, "Anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation." Now that soundbite was, well, exactly that, but it did almost ring true years after the fact at Elimination Chamber 2012, because who could have foretold this nearly moment? A stirring chamber bout pitting Daniel Bryan versus Wade Barrett, Cody Rhodes, The Great Khali, Big Show, and Santino Marella took a swerve when Santino pinned both Rhodes and Barrett. Suddenly, he was the only challenger left for Bryan. Fans were hooked when Marella slapped on his goofy Cobra gimmick and spiked the reigning champ. Bryan did kick out, but everybody believed, just for a few seconds at least, that WWE might have genuinely put the world title on a comedy act. Now, stranger things have happened, but alas, it wasn't to be. What a bloody pop, though. Number 8, AJ Styles will not die. SummerSlam 2016. If CM Punk powering out of the regular version at Money in the Bank 2011 was special, then imagine the reactions of the WWE faithful 5 years later at SummerSlam 2016. There, AJ Styles kicked out right before the 3 following a scary attitude adjustment from the middle rope. Every single person thought for sure that that was the finish. But nope, AJ wriggled free and kept the action rolling for a few seconds later. He'd go on to hit his Styles Clash and then a springboard forearm to take the pin himself. That adrenaline-fueled sprint towards the end following AJ's kickout helped him become a made man in WWE circles. Now, people had kicked out of Cena's adjustment before. Punk's example wasn't an isolated case after all, but this felt even more special. Styles had survived a bump from the middle rope, and that's not something that even his biggest supporters could have predicted. Number 7, Batista just kicks out. WrestleMania 30. Now, I can recall the general feeling heading into Mania 30, and it only heightened when Daniel Bryan toppled Triple H in the opener. WWE would throw Bryan a win, but then either Batista or Randy Orton would take the world title come the end of a fun Mania event 3-way. Acid reflux was pretty strong with this one when Orton smashed Big Dave with an RKO and covered him. Worryingly, Bryan had been laid out by both, taking quite a terrific bump through the announce table in the process, and it seemed like his underdog story was going to have an unhappy ending. But D-Bry didn't save Batista's skin. The animal kicked out himself right before the 3, and everyone was relieved. The best thing about this false finish, though, was that Randy's RKO happened so suddenly that it would have actually been a credible fall, but thank God it wasn't. Number 6, one spear just isn't enough. New Year's Revolution 2006. Looking back, Edge was always cashing in that Money in the Bank briefcase to earn his first WWE/World title win at New Year's Revolution 2006. Now, retrospect makes that obvious, but Money in the Bank was a new concept back in 2005 and 2006, so nobody knew for sure whether this would be a one-off heel failure. Edge's cash-in moment sure had that look about it when he walloped Cena with a spear, and JC just kicked out on 2. The fine folks in Albany who had witnessed Super Cena win an Elimination Chamber match seconds before eased themselves into thoughts that maybe John is just going to rally and vanquish his R-rated foe, but that wasn't the case. Edge managed to withstand Cena's comeback and hit another spear to take the title home with him. This sudden win was made all the more shocking by an earlier escape that suggested the babyface was going to triumph. Haha, not at all. WWE tossed their script right out the window. Number 5. The Rock avoids hitting rock bottom. WrestleMania 19. Now this might come across as a bit of a strange one to some, because The Rock vs. Steve Austin 3, at least in terms of Epic Mania showdowns, had countless near falls that had fit on this list. And if we're being truly honest, we were only really fooled by the first stolen rock bottom delivered by Austin. But what a false finish. It came completely from left field and followed an extended brawling sequence. Rocky the heel was also taunting Austin hard before slipping on that proverbial banana peel. If it was actually the finish of the match, a lot of people probably wouldn't have complained. It would have been short, sweet, and absolutely devastating. But The Rock kicked out, hit a stunner as revenge, and then the pair slowed things down for a minute before going to the closing stretch. 3 rock bottoms of his own later, and old Dwayne Johnson finally had his elusive WrestleMania win over Austin. Number 4. The Ultimate Warrior survives. WrestleMania 7. The rules on finishers have changed mightily over the years, but back in 1991, they typically signaled the end of the match, and that was especially true of the WWF's top names like Hulk Hogan or Randy Savage. For example, no one was going to be kicking out of Hulk's leg drop. Similarly, Macho Man's elbow was a guaranteed ending, except when it wasn't. Mid-retirement match, he hit a stunning 5 elbow drops from the top in a row on a downed Warrior, and then let his ultimate rival kick out. Fans had not seen somebody endure that many finishes before, so it came as a massive surprise when Warrior popped a shoulder up. Anyone figuring that Macho's elbow was dead as a finish from then on was also mistaken though, but it was quite the thing to see somebody take 5 of them and still end up winning. Number 3. Hulk Hogan's leg drop fails. WrestleMania X8. Now, Jim Ross has had countless iconic commentary calls throughout his career, but only a handful could ever hope to match his outburst of, "He beat Andre the Giant with that move" at WrestleMania X8. Hogan had just hit The Rock with his trademark leg drop, and it brought down the house. Toronto wanted so badly for Hulk to win that their disappointment was evident when Rocky lifted an arm to stay alive. But this is fascinating to watch now, because let's face it, Hogan has become a real-life heel to so many, whereas The Rock is a social media darling. Seeing people boo him in favor of Hulk's familiar routine is rather bizarre. But what a false finish this was. Rock and Steve Austin had already set the template for an epic kick-out festival several years prior at Mania 15, but that leg drop only getting a 2 still amazed the Skydome. Number 2. Shawn Michaels defies the Tombstone. WrestleMania 25. The Undertaker secured his status as a meme by looking like his soul had escaped his body at the end of WrestleMania 25. Nobody who has seen it needs a blow-by-blow account of what made the first Taker vs. HBK showcase such a classic. If you haven't seen it, then what are you still doing here? Go and watch this right now. But seriously though, stay, because we need the ad revenue. The Undertaker's distraught sell job after that thrilling near-fall definitely helped make it even bigger. Fans didn't have a clue what was coming next after this one, and that sense of drama was staggering live. For one brief moment, it seemed like Shawn might actually do what nobody else had been able to, but he didn't have the best close call with the dead man at WrestleMania, however, because his mate did. Number 1. The streak lives for now. WrestleMania 28. Convincing fans that, insert wrestler here, was capable of ending Taker's cherished Mania winning streak became an annual chore for WWE's creative team before Brock Lesnar ended it. To lessen the burden of finding fresh opponents, they decided to book a rematch between The Phenom and Triple H for the 2012 live event. Then, they installed Shawn Michaels as special guest referee and plonked it inside Hell in a Cell. Now, to their credit, the trio offset fears that they'd be bogged down by too much gimmickry by producing a thumping brawl that, whilst being definitely long, had one of the best near falls of all time. Mid-match, HBK hit a super kick on Taker. That was followed by Trips blasting him with a pedigree for the agonizing pin attempt. When the icon kicked out and preserved his streak, Shawn looked like he was having a mental breakdown. Meanwhile, in the stands, fans gathered themselves for more because they'd been tricked into thinking that this was it. Before you kick out on this video, let me just make sure that you're leaving today with a bit of positivity about yourself, because you are a big ledge, my friend. You deserve love, happiness, and success, all of the best things in life, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, all right? As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.